Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. What's going on, y'all? It's Friday. Oh my gosh, so many days have passed since I've been here. I apologize. This week was just crazy busy. But I do have some new cards, so that's exciting. Today is, yes, Friday, May 8th, 2026. And let's see, what time is it? 1:41 on the clock. And I just got the Starlight Tarot deck that I'm so excited to use. Well, it came in yesterday, actually, and I really wanted to break it out yesterday, but again, I didn't have time. I want to shout out to Deanna on her channel is For the Chosen Ones, or For the Chosen One, but probably Ones. I'm not subscribed to her, but I do catch her messages, and they're usually pretty on point, you know. So she was using this deck, or she uses this deck quite often, actually, and I was like, "Whoa, what is that?" And she was so kind as to share. So it's the Starlight Tarot deck, blue edition. And I just think the images are really pretty, and I thought it would be nice to just have some more vibrant energy. I'm also going to get the neon tarot deck. I already have that on the way. Well, actually not on the way. It's in the cart, but it's as good as bought because I'm going to get it. But just to give us, I figured this would be good for now, and then like really summertime. I don't know, I feel like neon just screams summer to me, so I probably won't break that out anytime soon, but we'll see how this one works out for us in the meantime. All right, so without further ado, let's see what we got. Well, let me cut it a little bit, even though I cleansed these cards. I saged them with some lavender sage. I prayed over them. I shuffled them profusely, but just for your sake, I will cut the deck. All right, so let's see what we got here. Okay, that's 2 cards. Let's see. My hands are, I put a little oil on my hand. Oh, it's just 1. Okay. Well, I'll see what that was just to see. All right, we got the 2 of Wands and then the 4 of Wands. Oh, man. That's so cool. I'm going to leave that down because it's like what someone is planning for. They're planning for some future connection. And maybe it was turned over face down, theoretically, well, I should say symbolically, because it's kind of like a secret, or some plans that haven't been disclosed just yet, or haven't been shared, or maybe haven't been fully carried out. But the 2 of Wands is saying that somebody has all of their ducks in order, their T's crossed, their I's dotted. I don't know what's the holdup then in that case, if there is one. But it's like somebody has their eye on the prize. They know exactly what they want. They know what they need to do to make it happen. And like I said about the cards, the neon deck, it's like it's as good as done already. It's just a matter of it just unfolding or playing out. So let's see, what else? Ooh, with the Queen of Cups. Is there another card? No, it's just 1. Okay. Queen of Cups here. Like I said, it's a done deal. When the Queen of Cups is showing up after a 4 of Wands and a 2 of Wands, it's like the object of someone's affection is clear. It's non-negotiable. There's no contemplation left to be done. Somebody may already be planning their course of action to approach, to proposition, to propose, perhaps. It's like somebody's already looking at that 4-1. Somebody's already seeing a balanced future with someone in mind. It's not, it's not, well, maybe I'm being stopped from saying that, because I was going to say it's not a matter of just seeing the ideal of a balanced union, but it's also already having in mind who they would like to be in partnership with, or who they would like to see in that place. Like somebody almost like fantasizing or looking out into the distance, or at the horizon, like the future planning. That's what it is. They're planning for their future, and they are quite meticulous about who they want to share it with. There it is. Or not meticulous, maybe the planning is meticulous, but they're quite certain. Yeah, they're quite certain about who they want to share it with or create that ideal with. And I love that it's the Queen of Cups, because that's such a strong affinity there. Like somebody sees a happy future with someone, something that's going to be harmonious and productive, like something that the ideal foundation that they want to build a legacy upon. That's what someone, man, that's really nice. Someone holds something and someone in very high regard. What's that? Jeez. What? They already at the altar, child. Interesting. But you know what's interesting to me? And it's interesting that both of their backs are turned against the priest, to the Hierophant. And they're both looking toward the direction of this Four of Wands, which for all intents and purposes is two women. So it's something unconventional about this partnership or this relationship here that is on the stark opposite end of the Hierophant, which represents tradition and convention. So I don't know, like something about this is screaming that there might be, first of all, there's an unconventional connection to begin with, but how this partnership gets to be solidified, what's the right word, secured or not secured, what's the word, like affirmed, maybe even consummated, but I know consummated is very specific, but you know, like really where there is an established, even with the Four of Wands, established may be something different than the norm of society would recognize, where maybe two people agree that they don't necessarily, which happens every day. I mean, it's not even all that uncommon anymore, but there's something significant about this that I feel the need to say it, that there may be a disconnection from tradition, but it doesn't reflect anything less solid or united of this partnership than a so-called piece of paper would, a marriage license, or you know, some traditional ceremony of sorts, or recognition by the establishment of this union. It's like something about this is solid regardless, like it's official regardless. And I say that, you know, to personally insert myself, because I've gone back and forth, especially now at the place I am spiritually in my life, about whether or not marriage by the establishment standards is necessary for me anymore. You know, like, is that the goal, or is it just a solid sacred commitment to begin with? And of course, I know I'm old enough to appreciate all that comes with marriage in the conventional sense, in the traditional sense. You know, it's a covering. It's a contractual covenant. It's recognizable by the establishment, so it kind of eliminates a lot of things legally. You know, when it comes down to like protecting your joint assets and protecting your union and who has right to what and so on and so forth. But in my spiritual mind, you know, I don't know. I'm still thoughtful about that, and for me, it will come down to what my partner feels. You know, what we decide together as to what works best for us. Of course, I would want to be protected and covered, but I feel like that's why I'm saying this, is because there's something so sacred about a union such as this, where two people are so committed and devoted to one another and building a life together, that a piece of paper doesn't really make or break that. You know, and then of course it can be argued, well, if it doesn't, then why not get it? You know, and there's that. But there's also a tug on me about binding myself to an establishment that I don't fully align with. You know what I mean? And now I'm gonna bind my union, a sacred union at that, to that establishment legally with my own consent and agreement. That's what I take issue with, and I'm deeply considerate of it. You know, there's a certain frequency of sovereignty that takes precedence when you have your own understanding. You know, so there could be something unconventional here that gets to take the place of tradition, and I'm just here to encourage that that's okay if that's what you decide. You know, if it makes sense for you and your union, and it's not it's not a tug of war, of course, or there definitely shouldn't be any cause for consideration of loyalty and devotion. But then again, you know, even not that I'm encouraging that, because there shouldn't be any cause for concern before you enter such a union or such a commitment. But even more support for the case of not binding yourself and making it more difficult to separate, if in fact you desire to at some point in time. You know, so I don't know. Let's see what else we got here. I guess it's up to the discretion of whomever is in this this sacred matrimony of sorts. And even I am still thoughtful and contemplative about just what my personal viewpoint is about it. So I can understand, even with the Two of Wands, someone might have kind of tossed around the consideration of what they would like to do, you know, maybe even about how deeply committed they desire to be and how so. You know, maybe there was, it could work two different ways. Like, someone may not have been ready or felt that they were ready to full out commit in the way that they revered commitment to be, but it could very well be the fact that there was a lot of pressure being put on the traditional aspect of all of that, when there's something far more unconventional that is just as sacred and just as anointed, you know, as anything. And there was really less cause of a tug of war between, you know, the mind, the body, the spirit, whatever, the passion here particularly, because that pressure doesn't apply here. Like it just doesn't apply. And maybe that's what took some time for somebody to come to their own realization that they don't have to be pressured to do it the way that it's expected to be done, and that it's okay to live their passions on their own terms, and hopefully having found someone that agrees with that. And it seems as though they at least believe that they have, or they hope that they have, or they're convinced enough that they have, that they're willing to present themselves or propose this alignment, or there actually has been an agreement or a covenant already made, and it kind of eases the tension of suspense for either side. Like, well, what do I want? What do we want? Or will I ever find someone that thinks so as unconventionally as I do? Maybe even a bit taboo, so to speak. But lo and behold, the right one for you might share your views identically, So, or at least may not be so hard to persuade, or to to see the point, to consider the possibilities. Oh, okay. Oh, Queen of Swords. Okay. That's an objective energy there. It's also, I don't know, something about the other side of this Hierophant, because I'm not sure. It could be somebody that was married in the conventional sense before, and they've gotten a divorce, because usually the Queen of Swords can represent that. Maybe for a difference in opinion or in views. Like the Queen of Swords comparatively can be a bit more calloused, maybe a bit more unwavering emotionally. Objective is definitely the higher frequency of all that, but they might be a little bit more rigid. That's what I want to say, other than callous. Maybe a bit more rigid in their approach to life. Like they may not be so easily persuaded to see things that don't make logical sense to them. All this passion and emotional driven energy might be a little harder to align with than the Queen of Swords, who's like, well, what do you mean you don't want to get married? Like she wants to do it by the book. So there could just be a difference, literally. Or like I said, maybe someone could have been persuaded or can be persuaded to see things a different way. But the Hierophant and the Queen of Swords coming after these energies, and again, she's facing that way. Yeah, somebody might have tried it conventionally, or this may have been the apprehension or the fear of being kind of stuck or binded to something that is more rigid than their true nature. Somebody may be a bit more passion driven to want to explore other possibilities or different realities. And far, far, far left, it literally could be someone that, not for nothing, that is interested in polyamory, and that feels that they have the capacity to love multiple women and support multiple women perhaps too, and devote himself or herself to multiple partners. I'll broaden it, generalize it a bit more. It could be that, but in order for that to be the the practice or the way of life, you would definitely have to have all parties in agreement. And again, there it is, that sacred union, and you know, that conscious contract that is different than the status quo, or what, you know, most people are doing. So there's that. I don't know if that's all to it, because I mean, the Two of Wands definitely is a choice being made. So it feels more like it being a choice of one distinctly over another, or one particular direction, or, you know, way of life, than it necessarily would be to have multiples be the choice. But he is looking at those two ladies, you know, and dancing in the I don't know, in the garden or whatever. So I don't know, it could be something like that. But hey, no shade, no judgment here. That's just a more extreme expression of something being unconventional and definitely taboo. But that could perfectly work for you, or whomever, you know, can relate. So let's see. The Eight of Wands. Okay. Some type of fast communication or acceleration of something. What's on the other end of the Eight of Wands? Of a decision, maybe? Coming after the Queen of Swords. Or after a decision has been made. What's the right word I want to use? Like a strong decision, you know, a definite choice has been made. Things will pick up. So it might be an acceleration of a partnership the moment there is agreement made. You know, if this is something that hasn't quite connected yet, it's like the moment you realize that somebody feels the same way that you do, you know, the suspense might be the only thing that was holding it back, you know, from moving forward. Again, that could be another expression of something unconventional, is the time in which something moves forward or advances into a serious partnership or commitment. Especially when it's no longer a matter of, well, when are we getting married, in the midst of it all, you know, like that kind of holding period, you know, like that holding position where it's like, well, if marriage is the objective, then certain things have to happen, you know, before that is realized, and then the partnership begins. But if two people decide, I know you're my person, and they know you're their person, and it's clear that we share the same values and we want the same things, more or less, and we have the courage to you know, step out on our brand of faith to build something that feels right to us, you know what I mean, without any particular need for validation or affirmation otherwise, then it kind of really releases, again, the pressure, and also the I don't want to say the delay, but like the formalities off of something that may just be destined to be, you know, as soon as it is. You know, it could even be something that has been destined, as it would be implied with the Four of Wands, and even having the Hierophant in the mix, you know. And I used the word anointed earlier. It's like something like kind of meeting your person and it feeling like you literally have known them all your life, or you've known them in a past life, like you recognize their soul and their soul recognizes you. It's like, well, what are we really waiting for at that point? And I know that sounds crazy to say, especially with all the ways that you could be catfished in the world today. But that's what I'm saying, like, it's up to your own personal discernment, what makes sense for you, and of course taking a responsibility and accountability for whatever the outcome may be. You know, you wouldn't have liberty to blame someone if things don't work out, or even necessarily to blame yourself in a condemning sense, but you would you would take accountability for your personal choice, even if you weren't really with it, but then you got persuaded, or vice versa, whatever. You know, you would still have to, or get to, I should say, take that ownership, you know, for that creativity. But like I said, everything looks pretty positive here. And the Eight of Wands is a divine acceleration. So it's like if you were to try to compare your love story, so to speak, to some, you know, to the average, there'd be no point of comparison, because it's not average. Not this what I'm speaking of. This is something phenomenal, you know. Yeah, so, you know, take that as you will. And if it's a partnership that is already adjoined, then it's really a matter of kind of like coming to that point of agreement and understanding with each other about one another's outlook for the future, and finally kind of like addressing the elephant in the room, or the thing that is kind of presenting itself to be a delay, or a resistance to things just naturally blossoming the way that they feel right to do so. You know, like starting to date someone, and or already being in a relationship, but maybe one person has some unconventional thoughts about marriage, and the other person, you know, it could be somebody holding on to their ideas about marriage. Like I said, I wrestle even with my own thoughts, you know, like, because my parents were married, you know, my grandparents were married, their parents were married. Like, marriage is not a foreign concept in my family, you know. But for many, many years, I've gone back and forth between, do I want to be married? I definitely want a divine union, but do I want to be married on paper? And that the reasonings why have even changed within that scope. So it's like, you know, really thinking about, really considering maybe someone that has these traditional values. That's what I should be saying, like values. And there being a consideration of how non-negotiable they actually are, you know, because sometimes, like I said, for me, you could feel like marriage is the objective, is the goal, because that's all you've seen, regardless of how you've seen it, you know, good, bad, and different. You just feel like, well, it can't be official, it can't be real, it can't be true unless there are rings, there is paperwork, there is, you know, a binding of sorts, a contract of sorts, you know. So, but then when you really think about it, you dress it all down. What of that truly is your philosophy and your truth for your life, and what of it is conditioned or learned or programmed? Yeah. So yeah, and then that's what I was saying about maybe being persuaded from those rigid views in a way that at first could feel uncomfortable, but eventually you come to realize that it works for you, or it might even be something that you really wanted all along, but you never either had the courage to say, or to the courage to admit, or it could even be you may have felt condemned to desire a certain thing that strays from tradition because it doesn't seem right, you know. So all of those things. The Queen of Cups is definitely a more fluid energy than the Queen of Swords. much more intuitive and emotional than cerebral. But it does it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of both going for you as well, especially when so much passion is in the mix. So I feel like I'm talking to someone that, like me, could be on the fence about a convention that they may not fully be aligned with anymore, and perhaps the final decision won't be made until you meet someone that inspires you to feel affirmed, or gives you the inspiration as to how a change could be prosperous. You might not be able to come to that type of a conclusion on your own, and that's okay, because that is a beautiful merging of ideals and perspectives, as the Four of Wands is, when something just perfectly blends together, harmoniously blends together. It's definitely giving soulmate vibes. And I don't use that word too often in readings, but it's definitely giving soulmate, sacred partner, your person, divine union. When you know, like that type of, there's no question here. It's not just a matter of lust and temptation and whimsy and fly by night and wham bam thank you ma'am, or a serial monogamist, or whatever the case may be. This is like something that's been brewing. It's been underway for a long time, and now it's like all the stars are aligned, literally, Starlight Tarot, the stars are aligned for something to finally come into fruition, or to grow, advance in the way that it's destined to do so, or at least toward that ideal. No holds barred, no more apprehension or reluctance, more so than anything. Really, maybe this month even, especially being the time that things are really being sifted out of your energy, so that all that is left is your organic perspective, your organic truth, not all the debris and infused ideals and projections that sometimes can be so mixed in that you don't really know how to decipher what is you and what is not. Like, there's something about that's being fully released, so that something can generate, or maybe even regenerate, in the way that it was designed to do so, with no hiccups and no false starts, or malfunctions, I should say. Yeah, something with this Eight of Wands, once it gets going, it's going the distance. All gas, no brakes. One more after this Eight of Wands, and I'm going to call it a day. The Knight of Cups. Oh, man. It's sweet. It's sweet. And, typically I'm usually a little bit skeptical of nights when there is, especially a love offer. I mean, it couldn't be no clearer that it's the Knight of Cups. But I'll say this, because I'm actually seeing it both ways, even as I'm saying it. This could be just someone approaching mildly. It's like I said, they already see the next eternity, at least the next 10, 20 years with someone. Like, with the world in his hand, it's like he's already got the future mapped out in his own, by his own perspective. Like, this is what I see could be possible, or the potential of our life together. But it could be someone that approaches with a lot less pressure, a little bit more lighthearted, maybe even a bit more casually, or with caution to some degree, even maybe a bit guarded with the night, knowing how much they have brewing to express. Someone might lead with just a little, or might not want to come on too strong, in a sense, so as not to like scare someone off, or again to put pressure on a situation that doesn't even need to be pressure. There's no pressure necessary, because the undercurrent of all of this is that there is agreement, there is synergy, there is devotion, there is a mutual interest. So when that is the case, just as much as you don't necessarily need to delay it for conventional purposes, you also don't need to rush it either. It can kind of take its time, again, as I said, to unfold naturally. So it could be this energy of the Knight of Cups, because it's someone that's wanting to kind of conserve their energy, or their interest in a way that seems less aggressive or less all-consuming. And or here's the other side, this absolutely could be, especially after the Queen of Swords, drawing a strong discernment for offers that are not quite meeting the standard of, say, a Queen of Wands, where you would want to see a king coming, ideally. You would rather see a king presenting themselves, putting their best foot forward, whether it's the cup, the swords, the pentacles, or the wands. If you're approaching a queen energy, you would want it to be someone that matches your vibe, to say the least. So it could really either be the divine kind of pushing back on those propositions and proposals that do not meet a certain standard, and or just your objectivity coupled with your emotional nature that is discerning enough to know when to say no thank you, even if it looks good. Could be a knight in shining armor, and sometimes a cup can be deceiving at a distance, before you can see what's really in that cup. You never know what type of emotional baggage someone could be carrying, or what you may be looking, you could be taking on account of your consent or agreement that you wouldn't have been able to see upon approach, because people know how to put their best foot forward, to send their representative, as they say, before you start to see who they really are. So it could be either one of those. Again, it's so indefinite here, I'm sorry to say, because each situation is so unique. It comes down to what you truly feel, and also really marrying, I would say, your intuition and your logic, to feel through your discernment, and also make it make sense objectively. You know, so somebody could be coming and spitting all the sweet nothings that the heart would love to hear, but they may not have a lot to show for their intentions. Maybe they're not stable enough, they're not accomplished enough, or it could be somebody young that, you know, may have the best of intentions to want to care for you in the best way that they know how. And it be a noble intention, but sometimes you may have to be the one to decide whether that's enough, you know, to make it fair for both of you in the long run. You know, again, as I said, taking responsibility and accountability for your choice, your power of choice in the matter. So it could be either one, and no shade to, you know, a younger prospect, because these days young men, young women have had to grow up in an accelerated way than we may have necessarily. You know, they've grown up fast, so maybe some wisdom has advanced with that life experience. But again, it would be up to the receiver of the proposal, in whatever way we're talking about here, to make that choice and to live with it, you know, to live with the choice that they made. But I feel like the most of this felt very positive and high vibrational, and that could even be another aspect of the unconventionality, if that's a word, of this whole dynamics. An age difference, maybe a race difference, because he's a little bit darker than her, than all the queens actually. Maybe a difference in upbringing, a difference in religion, and religion versus spirituality, even, you know, religious or spiritual practices, just general ideals about life and outlook on life, which, I mean, when you got two people coming together, you have to expect that there might be some difference in perspectives. However, it's how those two merge and align and and harmoniously exist that makes all the difference. Like, not trying to force the pieces, not trying to force the most ideal situation for your passion immediately, but it not serving your emotional needs or your intellectual needs or your financial needs, your stability, your ambitions in life. Like, what is the alignment that we led with is the Four of Wands, which to me says that it could be something that doesn't look like it should go together in a timing in which you wouldn't expect, but somehow it still does. But again, that's up for you to decide. So it may not be something that is so easily discernible. I don't think that's a word, but let's just say on the surface or at face value. But everything in your being and your spirit and your mind and the serendipitous way that things have aligned or come together, or the natural fluid way things are unfolding, you know, says otherwise, you know. So I don't know, it all depends on what you're in the market for relationally and what you're attracting, and what you're a yes to. This young man could come rock your world, and who's to say anything contrary to it, you know, if it works for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, whenever it is established, it's going to have a life of its own. It doesn't seem like it's something that can be contained or controlled, certainly not by societal standards, but even by those that, you know, those two or more, if that's what you're into, parties involved, is going to just take on a life of its own. And if it's righteous, which I hope that it is, it seems like it would be something that you wouldn't want to hold back. Like, it might be a bit of a whiplash, you know, from what you have an expectation for, what you have a point of reference for. But it seems like it will be a positive progression or advancement. Of just two hearts and minds and spirits that are on one accord with the Lord. Whatever that Lord of your life or your partnership may be. All right, so let's see what we got. Oh my gosh. If that's not confirmation. Wow. Can you see the cards good? I think so. I didn't even check on that before I started. Yeah, wow, the Lovers, in case it is a little bit dark down there, but not as bad as my gold cards. They also have these cards in gold, but given my experience with gold on this table, I would have loved that, but I was like, nah, the blue will probably show up better. So hopefully it actually does. Let's see what's on the bottom. The Four of Swords. It's like having like a peaceful resolve about this partnership. Like no force, no resistance. I'm gonna leave it. I was gonna try to shift it down just a bit, but I'm about to mess the whole line up. It's like, for me, it's like a surrender. It's a surrender to love. That's what it is. It's a surrender to true love. Like there's nothing more that needs to be done. Like I said in the very beginning, it's as good as done, no matter what road you take. Like something is so sacred, so ordained, so written, like it's happening one way or another. The worst that you could possibly do is resist it. And why? I mean, there are I was going to say, and why would you want to do that? But there are natural reasons why that could be an inclination. But the soul, I believe in this case, would fight tooth and nail for this partnership before anything impure or superficial would take that lead, or take over. In the best case scenario, something like this, it's like two people are already waiting for this unfolding, like patiently waiting for the right timing, the right alignment, the right partner, the right presentation, proposal, personal affirmation, all those things. And it's like that's why I was saying, like the moment it is as it's supposed to be, there's nothing that anything or anyone, including the ones involved, are really going to be able to do to resist that. It's something so natural. And if it's and it's also like an invitation to surrender if you know this to be true. Like everything in your bones is telling you, this person is it. This is the right time. I am ready. I am willing. I have the capacity, whatever. I have the desire. The foundation is set. There's no perfect time. It can't get any better than that. All of those things that sometimes we allow to dictate the natural unveiling or progression of life as is divinely ordained, get to be released, and just there to be a consent established with love in its purest form. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to delay anymore. There's no external distortions or interferences that really need to be considered anymore at this time. If they were before, they certainly don't need to be now. That doesn't need to be a consideration in the equation. All systems are a go, and all things are in alignment for something to just flow. For some, I guess for whomever makes the decision, as the lovers, is the choice to be love and to receive love. It's as simple as that. And the rest will take care of itself. Like I said, it will take on a life of its own. When that is the foundational understanding and agreement, the work does itself. I just truly believe that. I really do. And the work doesn't feel like labor. It's just devotion. And devotion can be quite rewarding. I love this. This is beautiful. All right, well, I'm going to leave that there. Good luck and Godspeed on this, whatever this may be, and whenever it shall unfold. I wish it for whomever is in the market for it, really and truly. But thanks for listening and watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.